Quick side note, this webinar will be recorded. So if any of you would like a recording of the webinar, please just make a note in the comment box and I'll be sure to get it out to you. Okay, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with who TGO is, we are Proven Financial Systems Specialists, and we are focused on the Office of the CFO. We deliver our guaranteed results at a fixed price. And with Microsoft Dynamics GP, we have been in practice with that for about the past 14 years. Erin is one of our specialists. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to her.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Is it possible for someone to write something in the chat to say that the volume is okay? Oh,
looks like we're good to go.
Not really seeing any. Yeah, okay. Well, as Kathleen introduced me, my name's Erin from TGO. I've been here for the last 5 years implementing GP, but I've been working with GP for well over a decade. And so today we are going to be looking at the year-end close routines to get everyone refreshed and ready for the end of the year. So hopefully if there are any new people as well, if there are any concerns or nervousness about the routines, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we always have a support desk available to help at any time. So some of the agenda today, we are going to be looking at the support life cycle. There are versions that are no longer supported by GP, so we'll take a look at that. And then we will go through the different modules, so inventory, receivables, payables, fixed assets, analytical accounting, GL, and payroll. And then at the end, I will also talk about management reporter and some considerations because the latest release that just came out for you to think about over the next year. So, Lifecycle Support. With another year passing, we have versions that are no longer supported. GP10 hasn't been supported for at least a year now, but the extended support will end in 2017. GP 2010, if you're still on that, mainstream support ended in October of this year, so Microsoft no longer supports GP 2010. It is possible to get extended support out to 2020, but if you are still on GP 2010 or anything older, it might be a good time to think about upgrading. GP 2013, which is still supported until 2018, and GP 2015, which is the current version that's out right now, will be supported until 2020. Okay, so when you think about year-end, there are a few things to go through. You always start off with the individual subledgers. And so the first subledger to think about, if you are using it, is the inventory control module. So when should this be done? It should be done at the end of the fiscal year, before any new transactions are posted that would affect inventory quantities. And what does it do? So we really, all of these modules, subledger, closing, what it does a lot of the time are update smart list items, we're updating views, we're updating windows, summary windows and reports out of the module so that your year-to-date values or prior year values are updated. So you'll see here transfers all summarize current year quantities to last year. We're updating each item's beginning quantity to be from the quantity on hand at each site. We're going to zero out the quantity sold field because it's now going to be the current year, so we haven't sold any for the current year. And you'll also have the option to remove discontinued items, remove sold receipts, remove sold lot attributes, and update items standard costs. So what should you do? What steps should you take? Make sure that you've entered everything in purchase order processing and inventory for the current year. And there is a KB article in the slides that you can follow in order to get the detailed steps within that module. So each of these pages, each module that in my slides will have a direct link to the KB article, and I have confirmed that these links are all still valid. So when you, if you'd like a copy of these slides, you can follow the links directly, or just note down the KB article, and you should be able to find them on Partner Source or Customer Source. So some key things to remember. I always take backups. So that's one of the keys about a year-end. It's a good idea, at the very least, that you are prepared to take backups and restore those backups when necessary. It's a very good idea to have a test company at the very least, and so that you can restore those backups that you're taking and test them to make sure that they're working. What we found is that sometimes people take backups and they aren't tested, and then when you go to, if something happens and you need to restore them, and you realize that they aren't usable. So it's a very good idea to routinely test out your backups that you've been taking. And so at year end, be prepared to start doing restores over to the test company, and maybe run through these steps in the test company before you do them in the live. But regardless, when you're doing them in live, always take a backup before you begin. So make restorable backups when recommended in the KB article. If you're using SOP or POP modules, reconcile those modules first in addition to the inventory module prior to closing. As SOP, POP, and inventory all work together. Sales order processing is where you create customer invoices using inventory items, and purchase order processing is where you are creating purchases or purchase orders for items that are in inventory. So the three modules work very closely together. So what are some of the related KB articles that can be referenced? So we've got a few here that you might find helpful if you are using inventory. When should the, okay, so receivables management. This is our sales module. So receivables management, if you have a year end that does not follow the calendar year, if your fiscal year is somewhere else in the year, you will need to do this twice. Once at your fiscal year end and once at the calendar year end. And so what we are doing here is really making sure that our various windows, and summary windows, reports, and smart lists are updated to reflect accurate current fiscal year and current calendar year values. So what does it do? The calendar year end closes. Calendar year-end close clears the calendar year-to-date finance charges and moves to last year, and fiscal year just moves fiscal year-to-date finance charges to the last year. A bit of a repeat. So receivables management, what should I do? Make sure you post all transactions for the current year. It's a really good idea to make sure that you have some views that give you a listing of all batches that are sitting in waiting to be posted in the system. Maybe you turn that into a reminder on your home page so you see it right away before you go try closing. Try to close and you realize you've missed something. So post all your transactions for the current year, and then we have a KB article that you can follow through on the specific steps in the receivables management. And before I close off, I'll show you where these windows are in GP. I've got GP also open. Okay. So what are the key points to remember in receivables management? Again, make restorable backups. It's very important that you do this, and this will be repeated in each module. So not completely date sensitive. Some things require the close process to update. So a lot of things within this receivables management subledger don't really look at this date specifically. You have to run the year-end close routines for those items to be accurate. For example, there are a few smart list objects that will give you a current year value, or there's some summary reports or summary inquiries within the module. For example, the customer summary window, you have an amount since last close view. So there are a number of different things that are not looking at the date on the transaction. They're really relying on you running the year-end close within the subledger. Okay. What are some of the related KB articles that can be referenced? So we've got a couple here. The most important one is the 857444. It just takes you through the simple window to close the year. Payables management. Again, if your fiscal year does not follow the calendar year, you will have to run this twice every year to ensure that your different views are accurate. And it really does, in the payables management, does the exact same thing that we see in the receivables management, where our summary views on the fiscal year and the calendar year are updated so that the current year rolls back to the prior year and the current year is zeroed out. Make sure that you post all transactions for the current year. Again, rather than digging through the system or going to the posting master, you can always create a smart list and turn it into a reminder on your home page and have them pop up for you so that before you start running your year-end, you'll see it on your home page that you have something to post. Make sure all transactions for the year are saved, not posted, that you haven't accidentally posted into the following year. Make a backup. Now, go back to that last step. The issue with posting to the following year is not so much that it's not going to affect anything in the GL, but again, your subledgers, your payables and receivable subledger views are going to, the current year and prior year are really looking at all of the transactions and ignoring the dates. And so if you do post transactions for the next year now and then run year-end close, then those transactions will be counted as prior year transactions within the subledger. So just be cautious of that. Okay, and follow the steps in this KB article. Really very simple. Some important points to remember. These are I pretty much talked through already. That it's not fully date sensitive, so it's recommended that you process your year-end closing routines at the actual year-end. Fixed assets. Make sure that fixed assets is closed after payables management. Obviously, if you have any payables that are going to in fact impact your fixed assets, you'll want to make sure those are all posted first. Make sure you do this before you close your GL. And make sure that you've closed all books before you do any processing for the new year. So if you have multiple fixed asset books that you're managing. What does the year-end process do? Again, in all those subledgers, what you're really doing is making sure that your year-to-date and prior year is accurate in various areas. So in fixed assets, you'll want to make sure that your depreciation has been run for the full year to the very last day of the current fiscal year. Print all the reports that you'll need. It's really important to print your reports because there are some that can be reprinted, but most of them really can't be. So we want to make sure that you keep those on hand. Obviously, make a backup as well. And again, I would really encourage you to have some test company available to run through the process before you do it in your live company. Okay. Analytical accounting, that data is closed with the GL. There's a KB article related to that if you find that you get an error message saying you must run through consolidate transactions and transfer detail historic. So if you get this analytical accounting error when you're trying to close your GL, review this KB article. So the GL will be the last thing you close. This is something you should do once you've run through your inventory, receivables, payables, fixed assets. Now, the year-end in the GL is the one that has a little bit more impact. Obviously, we are clearing out our P&L accounts to our retained earnings, and all of our balance sheet accounts are going to get our beginning balance entry. So all the prior transactions will be rolled forward into a balance brought forward. Okay, and you do have the ability to have divisional retained earnings. So what does the process do? As you see here, we're referencing some GL SQL tables. When all of the transactions that you're posting to the year, they all get posted to an open table. And so once you run your year-end close routine, they will move from the open table to a history table. What that means is that sometimes if you have some reports that are really only reading from the open table, then suddenly those transactions might disappear from reports. So it's a good idea to always keep a view of both those tables if you are creating custom reports. Fiscal periods are then going to be marked as historical. Always remember you are able to post into the year that you just closed. So if you have any audit adjustments that come through in the next few months, you can post into 2015 if you've closed it. But you would not be able to post into any prior years. So just keep that in mind. During the routine, you have the option to remove inactive GL accounts. You also have the opportunity, it's not immediately obvious from the year-end close window, but unit accounts can now be cleared out to be 0 for the new year. So if you're tracking things like number of sales that you need to track from starting at 0 at the beginning of the year, you can do that to your unit accounts. So just review the unit account window to make sure that those accounts you want to start out at 0 have been marked to be cleared at year-end. And our analytical accounting data will also move to history, and balance brought forward entries are created on the various dimensions. So there's this KB article here, KB 888003, to follow in detail. And remember to take backups. Make sure that you have enough free space on your server. So make sure IT knows that they have enough free space to allow the GL 20,000 table to double in size. Make sure that you're performing the year-end routine at the server, that you're not trying it on a Citrix terminal or on your local machine if you have a GP installed there. Make sure that you're logging into the server directly and running the year-end close routine there. We've just noticed some connection issues that occur occasionally, and that will help reduce those issues. Make sure that you have all other users out of GP when you're performing these routines. And also, it does appear to hang when it's halfway through the routine, but it is still processing, so let it run. There is in more recent versions, I believe from GP 2013, where you'll have progress bar. Older versions, you don't have a progress bar, but regardless, it does sometimes take a little while, and it does appear to hang halfway through. So just let it run. Don't interrupt the process, because that causes a lot more issues. If you do find that it's been running all night, please reach out to our support desk and they can give you a hand. Some common issues that come up: make sure you review your account posting types. So make sure that all of your balance sheet accounts are marked as balance sheet. Make sure all of your P&L accounts are marked as P&L. This is a really important review to do at year-end in case something new has been created and maybe labeled incorrectly, or perhaps someone has accidentally changed the drop-down setting on an account. Balance sheet accounts are going to be rolled forward, and P&L accounts, P&L accounts will be cleared out at the end of the year. So if they're incorrectly labeled, then you're going to have a weird amount posted to your retained earnings and weird activity in your account. And perform test run of GL close on a test company first. If you don't have a test company and would like help setting one up, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to help. Allow it to run. Don't try and stop the process and force it to close. Click the close year button only once. Don't click it again. You can always check your process monitor to see if something's happening, but really avoid double clicking. You can't reopen a year once it's been closed. Microsoft does not support this. Now, that's, of course, if you're on an older version prior to GP 2013, R2, because in R2, they did release the option to reverse historical year. And I'll take a look at that in a second. And the year-end close report can't be reprinted, so it's very important to save that. So reversing the historical year, this is something new for those of you that are on GP 2013 R2. And what that means is that you're not on the original version of 2013. But if you're on 2013 R2 or a more recent version, then you will see a reverse historical year button on your year-end close window. So some things to think about before doing that if you realize you closed prematurely. So make sure you back it up before attempting. No users should be logged in. Make sure you reverse the most recent historical year first, so the year you just closed, before reversing any prior years. The process will delete any balance brought forward amounts in the balance sheet accounts. They won't be voided. They'll be deleted completely, and the whole routine will just be reversed completely. Any historical analytical accounting details that will be deleted from the history tables and moved to the open tables. Summary balances will be recalculated. I think I've duplicated wording there. But yeah, so a lot of recalculating, and things are moving from historical to open. Balance brought forward will be deleted. So it's a good thing, but it's something that you definitely would want to test out in the test environment first before attempting in your live environment, and always take a backup before starting. So there are a number of KD articles you might find helpful out there. How to set up an adjusting period, divisional retained earnings. If you have multiple legal entities within a database and you want to make sure that they each have their own retained earnings account, you can set up a divisional retained earnings account in GP. You can change the posting types on account after you close the year. Retained earnings account not found. Query to clear beginning balances for unit accounts. GL year-end close still in process and batches cannot be posted. And inactive GL accounts deleted during year-end close process for GL. There are a number of good articles out there. So now we're into payroll. U.S. payroll year-end closing first we'll talk about. GP 2013 and GP 2015 are still supported by Microsoft, and they have released the 2015 year-end update. It was on November 20th. They are expecting the round 1 release for 2016 to come out on December 21st, and then round 2 will be mid-January. So what steps should I take to close the year? Well, obviously we want to make sure that you complete all pay runs for the current year. Take a backup. Install the 2015 year-end update. Complete the year-end file reset process. Take another backup. Create and print the T4s, your various reports, and verify that pay periods are set correctly in 2016, that you have a 2016 available. Okay, so what's changed? There are no updates for GP 2010. There have been some considerable changes to ACA and U.S. payroll. But also I noticed this one comment here on some of the documentation that's come out from Microsoft that they really encourage people, or say that it's required now, that when you do install the year-end update, that you should upgrade your modified forms and reports after installing the year-end release. That there are a number of these year-end releases that they create, make changes that will impact your reports. And so we want to make sure that you're running, you're upgrading your forms and reports when you're installing your year-end release. So this was a new comment that they had made. It was never really mentioned in the past. If you do need some documents for CRA, there's a website available here. Now some comments about Management Reporter. I know this is a year-end close, and I'll go back to some of the year-end windows in GP to point them out, just in case you're not sure where they are. But I wanted to take just a moment and discuss Management Reporter. The CU14 was released on November 30th, 2015. So you want to start thinking about when did you install MR and what version are you on? Is it time to upgrade? Because they've done a lot of releases. They come out with a new version every quarter, and if you're a few versions back, then you are probably not getting the most out of the system. It's much faster. There's significant improvements in multi-currency handling. Now, the changes that they made over the summer could cause some, how the foreign currency transactions or amounts are reported could change somewhat. So if you do decide to do an upgrade from whatever version you're on before the summer to the latest version, you'll want to do this in the test area so that you can validate that the new numbers are not too far off from your old numbers, and if there are changes that they are not material or that you can identify them and explain them. And that's just the changes that were made were really to ensure the GAAP compliance and that that the multi-currency ability is as strong as it can be. The last version supported, this version that came out, CU14, is the last version that will be supported on SQL 2008. So next version, the minimum supported version will be SQL 2012. And so it's just something to think about. If you guys are on an old version of SQL or an old version of MR, it might be a good time to start thinking about an upgrade. There are some really good blogs out there. The community blog is always a great resource, and the year-end close blog. So this is where you can find some links to KB articles that might be helpful for you. Okay, so I wanted to quickly show you some of the year-end close. This is my GP here that's open. So, and remember to do the subledgers first. Each of the subledgers will have a year-end close option under the routine pane. And so they're really very simple windows. This is not, there's not a lot to them, but we want to make sure that we're closing the right thing. If it's just a calendar year close or if your fiscal year falls on the calendar, then you can do both. We have the same window in purchasing, inventory. So these subledger year-end close are really just updating your inquiries and reports within that subledger. You're making sure that your current year is accurate, or your current year will be zeroed out and your old current year will become your prior year. It's really just in the financial module where you have this year-end closing that takes values, closes out your P&L, and rolls forward your balance sheet accounts. And one other thing I wanted to show you is in your unit account window, you do have a close balance during year-end close button. And so if this, a checkbox, if this is marked, then this unit account will be closed out or cleared out when you run the year-end closing routine in the financial module. Okay. Some additional resources. So if you do have any questions at all, we have a great support team here available to answer your questions at any time. Support at tgo.ca. They will be more than happy to help you out. And if you wanted to give us a call, we have a few numbers, or just general info at tgo.ca. If there's anything that I have mentioned or anything I haven't mentioned that you would like to discuss with us, feel free to give us a call. Okay, Kathleen, did you want to close it out?
Yeah, I actually just had a question here for you before we end our webinar. Kimberly asks, should you close fixed assets only at your fiscal year end or both calendar and fiscal year end?
Well, all the modules you have to do at fiscal and calendar. I'll have to take another look at the inquiries to see if there would be any benefit to doing it just at your fiscal. You would have to do it at your fiscal year. Let me do a little bit more digging into that, and I'll respond to that one.